Pop Culture Pastor.
Okay, Cody. I happen to have some recanonicalized drawings here for you.
I appreciate it.
I don't even know what those would look like. Maybe I'd draw you, but as me. I'm not sure what a Pop Culture Pastor recanonicalized drawing would look like.
I'm not sure either.
But whoa, did we get some weirdness in this episode? Holy goats, Cody.
There was a lot going on.
Oh man, yeah, this is going to be a fun episode to break down, but let's just start it like we always do. Cody, what the Lumen is going on here? What's our what the Lumen moment?
So it was nearly Goat Man just hanging out in the background and no one noticing. It was nearly that. But it's what you actually referenced. The recanonicalized painting intended to help you see yourself in Kier, our founder.
Oh my goodness.
And Milchek's reaction.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in that scene, and we're going to get to that for sure, but
/ Natalie over smiling.
Yeah, when I say all of it, that whole scene, we're going to have some theories, I suppose, because we don't know what's going on, but what a weird and filled scene. Like, for not many words being said, that scene is full of things to talk about. This show just keeps getting weirder. Just when I think this show couldn't get any weirder, this might be the weirdest episode of the entire show so far.
I'm here for it.
Oh, I'm so here for it. So here for Mammalian's Nurturables.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully we get to see them again.
Sounds like a scientific name for goat food. Hey, would you like to buy some Mammalian's Nurturables?
No,
Are those like vitamins? I don't know. Could I take those? I'm a mammal. I sadly do not have a pouch. We'll get to that.
We will get to that.
Oh, man. All right. The episode titled Who is Alive? Which is a reference to the whole episode is kind of backed by this kind of cockamamie plan that Outie Mark has that he's developed clearly with his sister Devon. To sear into his eyes with a bright light who is alive, literally.
Yes.
We'll talk about that coming up, but is that a good plan, Cody?
It's not the worst plan imaginable, but it doesn't sound effective.
The episode starts as we fade into Miss Cobell's white Volkswagen Rabbit. White Rabbit, I never got that before until just now, but
yes.
Little Alice in Wonderland reference there. Her white Volkswagen Rabbit on the side of a snowy road. I mean, Cody, where is this? It looks like she's in North Dakota. Perpetual winter continues.
Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah. This show for me so far this season is not beating the hell reference. The hell rap. Like, it's perpetually winter. They referenced Persephone in the last episode, which has to do with seasons in Greek mythology and Hades. And here we are. Miss Cobell is sleeping in her car on the side of this winter wonderland. She gets up. She's woken up by a truck honking at her car for no apparent reason. But that's a TV thing. That's a trope.
It is.
She pops the cassette into the player and hits the open road again. It kind of sounds like Voodoo Child at first, but that wasn't the song.
No.
And music continues to play as we see Outie Mark hatching this plan involving his watch. He's going to time how long the searing of the message has to last for him to get in there and for his innie to see it. So he arrives to work. He starts the stopwatch and he runs through the parking lot. As he puts the watch in his locker, he starts counting to himself until he steps in the elevator and becomes Outie Mark, halfway in between saying 37.
It's a good note.
Yeah, so he's adding 37 onto the minute whatever that was on his watch. And yeah, he's going to get told how ridiculous this plan is later.
Poor Outie Mark.
Yeah, so we start with Team Innie, which most of this episode stays with Team Innie.
Maybe.
Maybe. We go straight into macro data refinement to see Mark printing copies of a sketch of Miss Casey. The innies are on a quest to find her, Cody. This just made me laugh. And like, there's no concern that Lumon is watching them as is discussed. And Mark's reasoning is, well, they said that we had full access.
This sounds accurate.
By the way, everything in that video has been a lie.
Or has it?
It's been a lot. There's nothing in the Outie world to suggest they are telling the truth about the Outies, for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, so they're going to go on a quest this episode to go find Miss Casey. And he starts coordinating where everyone's going to go. And Dylan says, nah, bruh, in so many words. Dylan's acting very, very cagey.
I'm like, you're a loose cannon.
He's been promised a visitation with his Outies family, and clearly this is an enticement for him, as he has completely dropped out of the team framework.
After convincing Irv that he should commit to the team.
Yeah, it's been... That was a... Do we think that Lumon knows their innermost desires and is using that against them, or do you think they just got lucky?
I would assume that they were probably listening in before the incident. Dylan has talked about how he assumes his Outies a BA. And that he is kind of fixated on, like, my Outie has to be doing great things.
Spoiler, his Outie is not doing great things. His Outie is very sad. Very, very sad.
Although, this episode, I realized, hey, your Outie's wife was on New Girl. Schmidt's girlfriend.
Yes, and yet another comedic actress or actor in this serious show. That's a trend.
It is a trend.
Mark and Helly, they're going to go try to reconnect with Goatman, who yelled at him to get out last time. And he jokes possibly other goat people. Boy, he didn't even know what he was getting into.
So many goat people.
Irv is to go back to O&D, which he's also hesitant about.
It's where Bert G was.
He's clearly nervous to return to O&D where his old flame worked. But Helly comforts him by grabbing his arm gently and saying, "We got you." Cody, did this action send up any red flags to you? Not to bark up the Helly is Helena tree once again, but did that seem weird?
I felt that it confirmed my conspiracy of her Outie is now entering in to this group to see what they have learned or discovered. For what it's worth, it certainly seems Irv finds it at least odd at first, but then goes with it. Mm-hmm.
It's hard. There's so many points in this episode especially, but now in the show in general, where the actor has been instructed, I think, to say something with their facial expression that maybe we're not getting yet, but at some point when we know, it's going to be obvious when you rewatch this.
And it's going to be embarrassing.
As they disperse, Helly asks Mark what the plan is and should they find Miss Casey, which is roughly, we'll just get her out the work door and then my Outie will know what to do. Good plan.
I liked it.
Like, that would result in, I'm assuming, chaos, but it's Outie Mark. What else is he going to do?
Outie Mark definitely is more prepared for it now versus like probably a month ago.
This is true. Outie Mark may burst into action after a short time of shock, I'm assuming. But this scene gets really interesting because Innie Mark senses Helly's weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a weirdness going on, asks if she's okay with all of it, which leads to this very awkward series of moments. And when I say awkward, Cody, seriously, them just looking at each other until finally they don't kiss, that felt like every high school dance I ever went to. Painful, Cody.
I wonder what the emotional maturity level is of a severed individual inside.
It seems pretty low, huh? And
It does.
it's what makes that question interesting, Cody, is if that's Helena Egan and not a severed Helly, that she would appear as a not severed person to be very stunted in the social department, the relationship department, which is interesting, which makes sense as the way she was watching that video of her and Innie Mark kissing. It would suggest that, yeah, she's kind of fascinated with that, and that's been probably denied her.
I am rooting for them to become an item outside of work.
Yeah, surely Helena turns at some point, right? Is that where this is heading? Do you see that?
Turns on the group or turns on...
No, turns on the company.
I feel like she's going to turn on the group first.
Because it's possible. My thinking is, if they were desperate enough to put her in there and act like an innie, that seems like a desperate move and a risky move. Because once she experiences the things that the cult tries to keep them from.
Alleged cult.
Yeah, alleged. I shouldn't label them a cult yet, although I feel like this episode cinches it, but we'll get there. I feel like this whole story is going to hinge when the door turns and the story turns is going to be when she decides that she's going to work against Lumon and for the betterment of the macro data refinement group and innies in general.
If she does, I feel she actually has fallen for Mark the person, the whole person.
Yes. Mr. Milchick hates balloons.
Which is rude, because he was constantly giving them out.
Yeah. I think what we see from Mr. Milchick this episode is some cracks in the armor. That he maybe isn't so down with Lumon as he appears to be.
Well, when you don't fix the computer in a timely fashion.
That is conjecture, but at the very least, I think what we can say for sure is he's got some anger underneath the surface.
Yes.
We get this moment between Irv and Dylan. After Mark and Helly have left, Irv tells Dylan he's recreated the paintings that his Outie was painting out in the Outie world of the elevator, the dark elevator.
Yes.
Or the Hellevator, as some people are calling it.
That's a little spicy.
Yeah, I did not come up with that name. That was another group who recaps one of the YouTube channels that recaps the show. But it's a good name, I think. But he thinks the elevator in the hallway is somewhere there in Lumon, that his Outie is seeing it in dreams, much the way he's dreamed of other things. And then he invites Dylan to go with him and then Dylan starts hemming and hawing. And as he's doing that, Miss Wong shows up. Imagine that.
Yes.
Irv leaves, points to his little sticker or pin or whatever that is on his coat and says hall pass, which I enjoyed very much, obviously. And then she asked Dylan to come with her. Anything to say about that?
I mean, it was clear why Dylan was being the way he was.
Yeah, for sure.
But
he has completely been won over by this idea of getting to see his Outie's family.
Like, it's a bold move.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll talk about it later when we get there. I don't want to present this idea yet. We go back to Seth Milchick, which is apparently his first name, because that's what Natalie from the board refers to as he walks into his office. She is there. She immediately says, "I've got the board on the line." This scene, like we've said, I think has a lot of deep things to say. I'm just not sure what they are. Natalie's got the board on the walkie-talkie, and Milchick says, "Hello." And Natalie informs him that the board says, "Hello."
Oh, this board.
So odd, bro. So odd. She says, "The board is jubilant at your ascendance." The board austerely wants Mr. Milchick to feel connected with Lumon's history.
I had to look up what austerely meant.
Oh, do you have it written down there?
Austerely means in a simple, plain, or severe way without unnecessary details or decorations.
Okay. What do you think the deal is with the vocabulary? There's a lot of big words on this show.
They have quite the lexicon.
Yeah, especially from Lumon's end. What's going on here? Is it AI?
That's a good possibility. I do think if you go the cult route, key phrases and expressions are very common within cults.
Oh.
And I mean within faith as a whole, whether it's one of the main monotheistic religions or even some of the Eastern religions, that there's that particular branch of faith's lingo that creates a division between us and them. And
yeah, when you say cult, you're not, there's the way to use it with a negative connotation.
Yes.
You're referring to just the classification system of how big your faith group is.
Yes. And right now it doesn't seem super big, but if Lumon's all over the world and there might be 100 employees in each building, then that number might be growing a lot bigger than what I am envisioning. But right now...
It might be a sect.
Yeah. I do think that when he gets the recanonicalized paintings.
So they've given him recanonicalized paintings intended to, quote, help see himself in Keir.
Within, especially Christianity, we get kind of this across the world of, in countries in Africa, Jesus is definitely black. In other parts of the world, he looks Middle Eastern. He looks like he might be from Japan. He looks like he's white. Yeah. He looks like he is South American. And so making the figure relatable is a strategy, but I don't know if in this world Christianity exists.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think that he would definitely, Seth would pick up on some of this. Like,
oh, you think so?
I would think so. Especially...
because I think there's a lot of people in Christianity who don't understand this.
Yes. I guess it depends on how deeply invested he is into the spiritual component of Keir.
Yeah. Because this is a very specifically Christian thing, right?
Yes.
Buddha's going to look like Buddha all the time.
Muhammad, you can't draw. So.
Yeah, he can't appear in your artwork. So this is a very Christian thing. And like Cody said, it's very normal. Actually, I know there's sometimes in our country when things get political, we bemoan or lament blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. That's not the way he probably looked. And they're right. He probably didn't look like that. But if you go to Korea, you're going to walk into a church, you're going to see Korean Jesus.
Yeah.
Ethiopian is a big Christian. There's a lot of Christians in Ethiopia. You're going to see Ethiopian Jesus there and Ethiopian Mary and whatever else characters you are. And it's actually kind of I think it's very sweet. And it has to do with being made in God's image. So we imagine, the Christians imagine that the God they love looks like them. So it's actually a very innocent, very sweet thing.
Yes.
Here, I don't know.
And it's interesting because theoretically Keir's not that long ago. And so...
well, but is it?
Potentially.
Yeah.
And so, like, that adds another layer to it. I wonder what Cobell would think of the recanonicalized version of Keir.
We would certainly get more of a conclusion, I think, if we saw other characters' reaction to these paintings. I think what it definitely said to me is, oh, there's no doubt now. This is a faith-based thing.
Yes.
This is clearly, if we want to call it a cult, whatever, but they're clearly this company is clearly about something spiritual and faith-based.
So what do you think of him putting it on the shelf?
Well, that's interesting. Milchick clearly doesn't like the paintings.
No, his reaction, I'm like, what are you thinking, my guy?
And both his and Natalie's good feelings in that scene seem forced.
Yes.
My wife and I, as we watched the episode, spent a lot of time trying to place Natalie's facial expressions, where she's got the forced smile at the end of the call, but it's very, you can tell it's forced. And is there fear in her eyes? He's clearly repulsed.
Yes.
And I have down here my notes to ask what you thought of this. And because this is that area where I'm not really sure what to make of it. This will be one of those things that when we find out for sure what's going on, it'll make sense, I'm sure. But clearly there's some revulsion, fear on Natalie's part, which is, I think that's what the actress was told to portray there. Like kind of hidden behind the veneer of the fake.
So what it reminded me of is the Jordan Peele movie Get Out.
Yeah. Very much so.
I'm like, now I need to know, is there something weird going on racially?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think it's just because Mr. Milchick is black and the recanonicalized paintings look so strange. Yeah. Although there is a discussion to be had there about why he's so repulsed. Mm-hmm. Like, is it coming from a place where he actually loves Keir and does not like to see him looking like him? Or does it come from another place of like, almost is he feeling like they're tokenizing him?
Yeah.
Which, either one of those could be true. Clearly a scene we can keep talking about because a lot of stuff there.
A lot of feelings within like a minute of screen time.
Miss Cobell decides to turn around at 238 miles from Salt Neck, which is not a real place, Cody. I looked it up.
I'm glad you did, because I did not.
She takes a look at Mom's breathing tube. That is her mom's breathing tube, I think I read. I did look that up to figure out what it was. I didn't remember that. Mm-hmm. But it has Cobell. It had her name on the breathing tube. We've seen it at some point, but it wasn't hers.
Yes.
So at some point, her mom's sickness, I guess we're led to believe, that holds a very big emotional hold. It has a hold of her. Clearly she's being motivated by that. And therefore, whatever it is they're doing with Operation Cold Harbor seems to tie into this. Are we talking about reincarnation? What are we talking about here? Is that what they're trying to do with Keir, to reincarnate him?
I mean, we talked about this a little bit last time, that like it could be a Westworld type thing.
Yeah.
Where Keir's soul, memories, that sort of thing stored on a computer. But at the same time, I'm kind of wondering by a different line if there's some sort of transformation.
Yeah. What about this? And this could have been my Keirspiracy, because I'm just thinking about it now, but I already have one for later in the show. Is it possible with your Westworld thing? Is it possible that Helly/Helena is an android? And she just has the memories and whatever of Keir, or whoever the first Egan is. Is it possible that she's not real? It would explain why the kiss, feeling a sensation that's very human, would be so fascinating to her. Because that's a trope. We've seen that.
Yeah. I don't know if it fully... I have some holdups just with like when her innie self got out.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I'm going to put that down as you agree with me. She's a robot.
She seems robotic.
Helly and Mark. Oh, by the way, this scene also reminded me with Cobell that, yep, perpetual winter still winning.
And Patricia Arquette still Arquetting.
She's great in this episode, by the way.
She is.
Helly and Mark S. go to the goat show. They return to the spot the guy was feeding the baby goat from last season. We get more of a look of the room. And lo and behold, there's a little passageway for goats. Mark and Helly crawl down
Or
in it.
kids.
No, I think it's goats because there's poop.
No.
Oh,
Baby
yeah, I got you.
goats.
Oh, that was a good
Kids.
one. Mark and Helly crawl down it, giving us all Shawshank vibes. And they come out into a huge room with literal rolling meadows in it. Both my wife and I gasped when they walk out into this room. That is so odd, Cody.
I want my office to look like that.
Now, I think after last week, we talked a lot about heaven and hell, and specifically hell. I think we need to talk about the goats. So I'm gonna read you a little bit of Matthew 25 from the Gospels.
I'm familiar with this. Go ahead.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory, this is Jesus talking, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people from one another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then he says some more words about how the sheep on his right, they'll hear like, oh, because you helped all the poor people and the orphans and the widows, you are going to the good place. Then he says this. He will say to those on his left, who are the goats, just to remind you, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me. They also will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger, needing clothes or sick or in prison, and did not help you? He will reply, truly, I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. Then they will go away to eternal punishment, as we already know, is hell. If you don't believe that, then believe the Cake song. Sheep go to heaven, goats go to hell. You remember Cake?
I do remember Cake.
That's not their best song, but
No.
still good. So, Cody, the hell imagery is really continuing.
So I will back it up a little bit with a quote from the Goat Man. I know I'm skipping ahead, but
Yep, go ahead.
he tells them that Miss Casey said his Outie excelled at stargazing and it meant a great deal to me. And if you go Revelation imagery, a third of the stars fell, and that's supposed to be the fallen angels as Lucifer is descending down.
Is his Outie a magi?
Maybe this is picking up on that. But that is a reach, as
Yeah.
I will say.
For sure. The big surprise here is this is a whole separate department. Brienne of Tarth comes over one of the hills with shears.
I was going to say, I think this is a Game of Thrones person.
Gwendolyn Christie,
That sounds right.
who played Brienne of Tarth. She's 6'3", Cody.
Yes.
And I like her. I like her a lot. I think she's a great actress. I liked her in Game of Thrones. And I thought she was perfect for that part as a book reader. And so she comes over this hill with shears and asks, "Are you here to kill me?"
Yes.
Mark is very confused, taken aback, and he says, "No, we're for macro data refinement." Then comes the obvious question. What is this place? To which she says, Mammalian's Nurturable. What?
My next question is, how big is this place?
I don't know. We're going to find out more about that. First, Irv goes back to O&D. So this episode, after really giving us time with each setting, this episode kind of jumps around a little bit. Irv goes back to O&D, which seems mostly deserted.
Yes.
I'm not wrong in remembering that having a lot of people there last time, right?
There was a handful.
Yeah, but they were evident. Like
Yes.
to see it seemed darker and less people there.
Well, when Bert G's gone, it is a darker time. He livened up that place and lighted up that place.
I wonder if he smuggled his watch in. Never mind. He has some great moments, Irv does, with Felicia, the older lady who worked there, who we saw last season. They talk about Bert. It's all kind of sweet. And they're reminiscing. And this is what's interesting, Cody, and what I think we're supposed to get out of the scene. At some point during the scene, I realized they're reminiscing about him the way people reminisce about someone who's passed away. Which I think, again, speaks to the innie plight. Then they look at his Bert drawings, and Felicia sees the rendering of the elevator and recognizes it. They sent a lot of shipments there, past tense, but now they send people to take the shipments, to which Irv's the obvious question. Do you remember where it is? And that's the end of them for this episode.
Goodbye.
Yeah. We go back to the goat lair. Well, first of all, what do you make of that? Do you have any thoughts for the elevator or whatever we're going to call it, and that she's seen it and they were sending shipments down it? What?
Because they're in archives. So where are they sending stuff?
What is beneath them? That elevator goes down. They go down to get to their
I like
work
to
floor.
think the board's there. What if this is like Dante's Inferno?
I mean, it definitely gives vibes.
That there's individual levels, and let's keep an eye on it.
The hell imagery is definitely, it can't be coincidence. They are definitely trying to get you to think of this in that frame of reference. Now, that doesn't mean that's what this is.
Just could be a living hell.
But that's definitely the imagery they're trying to get across. We go back to the goat lair. Mark says they're looking for Miss Casey from Wellness, to which Brienne says, "We don't abide such fripperies here."
Don't know what that means.
Well, it means wellness isn't a thought or concern here, which again, yeah, this is a bleak place.
Honestly, though, if I was just in a gigantic field, just hanging out with baby goats, I might not need a wellness person either.
They all look, well, first of all, we should say she very threateningly says they should probably be on their way, then stands up and rings a cowbell violently, to which they all start coming over the hills in a very Children of the Cornish moment.
Including Goat Man.
Yeah, including the guy in the black goat outfit. And Cody, they all look very disheveled, which brings up some interesting questions about severed people. Are these people in for longer durations than just a day? Like, are they severed for a month, a year, years?
That's a good question. Or have they just signed over, like, we're going to live here, send our money to the outdoors?
Maybe. It's interesting. It brings up some interesting questions, their disheveledness. We cut to Miss Huang leading Dylan to a meeting with his Outie's wife. Cody, I know this wasn't a big point of the episode story-wise, but for me, there was some very tender, very real human things going on here. Due to good behavior and output, he earned an 18-minute visitation event. The wife at first is taken aback, Gretchen G, by the way,
Yes.
as we're told, that Dylan's innie doesn't know her at all. But by the end of it, Cody, can you tell that she's liking talking to the man she loves without all of his baggage and brokenness? There's something that by the end of that, it's appealing to her, because why would it not? Why would it not appeal to us to speak to someone we love who has not been broken by the world?
He definitely has an innocence about him where Outie him is constantly in conflict and turmoil.
There's a great commentary running through this, because if you just saw Outie Dylan, you would jump to the conclusion that he's terrible. He's a bad dude. He's not nice to his wife. But when they show us Innie Dylan and how he's conversing with his wife, and how she reacts to it, you understand something that I think this show is very subtly trying to tell us, which is something I like to talk about, which is there are really no bad people. They're just broken people.
Yes, and different levels of brokenness.
Yes.
And Outie Dylan is very broken.
So I found this scene to be one of the more affecting scenes, even though it's not a big story point yet.
No. I did like how she slipped up, said Seth, and then what's her name comes on over the intercom.
No sensitive information,
Yes.
please.
And then
Miss Huang's great.
yes. And she's like, Miss Wong.
Back to the goat lair. If one of your goats went missing, this is a great little exchange between Mark and Brienne, who I'm going to continue calling Brienne of Tarth.
Yes.
If one of your goats went missing, wouldn't you go looking for it?
Sounds parable-esque.
Yes. Yes, Cody. This, again, a biblical reference that sounds close to it. It's not exact, but there's a whole thing where Jesus says something about leaving the 99 sheep to go looking for the one. Mm-hmm. Sheep, goats, we've already been here, but seems to be the opposite side, the difference between a sheep and a goat. Or is there a difference, Cody? Is it the difference between an innie and an outie? Yeah, some very real things to talk about. Very, very distinct wording they're going for here. If one of your goats went missing, wouldn't you go looking for it? That's not an accident that sounds like that verse in the Bible. Then that swings her. She seems to ponder it for a second, and then she just starts talking about Miss Casey. She used to come do her sessions in our husbandry tanks.
What is a husbandry tank?
I don't know. Maybe we should Google that.
They haven't said that phrase on this show yet until this exact moment.
A husbandry tank, Cody, is a tank that is used for the care and maintenance of animals such as fish, corals, or marine mammals. The term husbandry refers to the overall care and maintenance of the tank ecosystem.
Oh.
Including the animals, water, and hardware. So, for instance, husbandry for fish would mean feeding fish so they can eat it, water changes, regularly changing the water in the tank, monitoring the fish in the fish tank for behavioral changes. It's just husbandry means you're raising them, essentially.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting stuff there. She shares this information about Miss Casey, and then it ends up with they heard she was retired, like the company says. But also, could we see your bellies?
Okay, so this was a big part for me.
Yeah. See? Pouchless. Then the other guy who's been silent this whole time proves nothing.
Exactly. So this is a callback.
Is it?
To season 1, when Bert G told Irving B that there was a rumor that all MDR employees had pouches where they kept their larvae, which would eventually grow, devour, and replace them.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And so, I feel there could be something, weirdly genetic going on also. That we have, a transformation somehow.
Yeah, or the company is just trying to scare them away from communing with the people from MDR.
And what in the world does MDR really do?
Weird Natalie from the board visits Rickon. Rickon's book has been very important to the innies. Which is hilarious. Devin shows up while Natalie is meeting with Rickon. Devin's clearly not enthused.
Rickon is.
Is Rickon selling out, Cody? Surely a man of his convictions would not sell out to Lumon, but that kind of seems like the direction that's going.
It definitely, I think he's just thrilled that someone is really liking his book. And so
Yeah, the comments he keeps making in the whole scene about how apparently it's been very inspiring to the innies.
And he might feel like he's doing some social justice change for the innies.
Yeah.
And that maybe Lumon's not as bad as he thought they were because, well, clearly they're letting the innies read his work and it seems to be motivating them and it's helpful.
Yeah.
And you heard what Mark said. His book really helped him.
Yeah. It's hilarious later on as the sister comes to visit with Outie Mark. That's where she leaves them to go visit with Mark, tells him that this Natalie was there, who he doesn't seem to have any idea who she is. Mm-hmm. But mostly Outie Mark's hilarious disbelief of Rickon's importance to the innies is hilarious. Just funny. And then they talk about his cockamamie plan. Back to an important scene with Helena and Cobell. She shows up, she's back, and she leads with, if you want me back, you must accommodate my needs. Mark S. is so close to finishing Cold Harbor, and she says, Milchick's got to go. He's not up to the challenge. To which Helena says, I hear ego, hubris, arrogance. Keir teaches us they only cause pain. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Then Miss Cobell, comes back with everything I accomplished. I earned through dedication and industry, not because I was born into it.
Nepo baby.
Clear and obvious slam. To which I thought I was already going, oh, when I watched it. I was not expecting Helena to still win, but she does. To which she says, I think you've overestimated your contributions and underestimated your blessings. Which is, if you read that right, there's a threat in there.
Yes.
And Miss Cobell realizes it as she's leading him back into a quote-unquote meeting with the board, only to have the bodyguard kind of step up as they approach. She sees it, notices it, turns around and runs. Cody, powerful people doing powerful things. What does that mean? It means it's time for my conspiracy!
This is Dave's Keir Spears.
Cody, is it possible that this whole story is a commentary on the Middle Ages church and up into like the Enlightenment? How corruption can even poison faith? Are the Egan's popes from the Middle Ages? That's what I'm saying. There's a section in the history of the Christian church or Catholic church or whatever you want to call it that's very overrun with corruption in the Middle Ages specifically. And I didn't get it until this scene, the power of the Egans, but them not being Keir. We don't really know much about Keir. We know about the Egans.
I don't know if it would be specifically that time period, because you could probably point at any time period within the church history and be like, corruption, how dare you, in modern times as well. It just wouldn't strictly be the Catholic Church at that point.
But in so doing, is it possible that this is the story they're telling, how faith can be corrupted and how it looks very corporate when that corruption has taken hold?
Oh, it definitely is a possibility. Although I'm still hung up on Cold Harbor.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because you could go Frozen Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got thoughts, but not enough to flush them out.
The show ends with Mark S., Outie Mark, testing out his theory, staring at a bright light, trying to basically sear this code phrase into his retinas. And it's here that her name on the thing says Asal.
Yes.
We saw her in season 1 when she and Mark met and were interrupted, and she kills someone.
I had completely forgotten this lady existed.
Yeah, I did too. And she basically says, is this your plan? Because this is stupid. Yes. You could blind yourself, first of all. And regardless, she says there's probably safeguards in the elevator for that sort of thing. To which Mark finally just says, "Is Gemma alive?" So Outie Mark doesn't have time for all this. He just wants to get to the bottom of this.
Yes.
She says she was the last time I saw her, which is an interesting way to phrase that answer. And she says there's another way to get messages back and forth. Reintegration. Now, this is what killed Petey. His brain couldn't handle it. She assures him that she's better at it now. Do you believe her?
I trust her.
Mark agrees to it. They head to the basement to begin this whole thing. The episode ends as we see basically the blending taking place. I assume next episode we're going to get a blended Mark. There will not be innie and outie Mark anymore. We're going to have blended Mark, and that changes the show pretty dramatically.
Is it a permanent blend or is it a temporary fix?
Unknown. I would say unknown. But that's a fine question.
I'm now intrigued.
Yeah.
I was intrigued before.
It's another great ending to an episode. It leaves us with a lot of questions, but we're excited to see the next one. Cody, it's time for the Changes Award for character that goes through the most changes in the episode. I think the obvious one is the one we just saw, but we don't know the result yet.
I was going with Dylan.
Yeah. It's disappointing, too. We get it. He's being manipulated.
Yes.
But I like Dylan.
Although you could tell he was disappointed in his outie.
Yeah. But that's just going to lead him further down this road where I'm afraid he's going to try.
His outie is aware that his wife met with the innie and asked about it, but it's like, oh, it was okay.
Yeah. I don't know where this is going, but I have a bad feeling about all of it.
Yes.
I don't think this is going to help Outie Dylan with his wife, Gretchen. I don't think this bodes well.
I'm divorcing my outie and want to marry my innie.
Yeah. I don't like that. I'm going to go for the Changes Award. I'm going to go with my guy, Rickon. He sold out so fast, Cody.
It was nearly Rickon. I wanted to say Rickon.
Come on, Rickon. Where's all these ideals you were standing on so firmly?
I like to think that just a little bit of pride blinds the best of us.
Rickon is us. We are Rickon.
Yes.
Who do you have for the winner of the episode?
This is going to sound odd, but I have Rickon.
Rickon, he's winning. Yeah, man. He's going to get paid to do a special innie version of his book.
Yes, because some of the key phrases will definitely help connect better with the innies.
Yeah, because they respond to different vocabulary, which I thought was interesting given the vocabulary choices they make. And
Rickon already has a unique lexicon.
Yeah. My winner of the episode is Gretchen G. Gretchen G. For now. She could turn out she's the loser. But for now, she gets to meet with her spouse, who is completely unbroken. An unbroken part of him. Imagine that for a second.
I think it'd be heartbreaking.
When she went back. This is my fear is it's going to be intoxicating to her.
I think that it will be more heartbreaking because it's only going to happen every so often.
Yeah.
And that what is it about the family? What is it about us that you hate us so much that you're so angry, but here at work you are polite, respectful, and seemingly compassionate?
This goes one of two ways. Either she develops a total disdain for her outie husband, or it makes her realize the true man he is, and he's just been broken by the world, and it gives her a deeper understanding of the person he is, and she loves him more deeply.
I'm depositing the third way is that it breaks her because she feels less than, because she's not meeting the outie's needs.
Yeah, could be. Who's your loser of the episode?
He was nearly my winner, but I'm going with Seth. he definitely is like having some inner turmoil. Mm-hmm. But like he didn't get a lot this episode, and he clearly did not like the recanonicalized version of Keir, and it was
so ungrateful.
It was a very thoughtful gift.
And creepy. My loser of the episode is Mammalian Nurturables, because that looks rough. I think I'd rather be in macro data refinement.
I don't know.
Whatever's going on down there doesn't seem kosher.
I mean, I don't want to be around a bunch of goats.
I don't want to wear goat skin. That was creepy.
Not all
What's
of them
he doing?
were wearing goat skin.
I know. The difference between them all was kind of unnerving.
I am intrigued by the dude wearing the full goat.
Is that what we're going to call it? He went the full goat.
He went the full goat.
To reference another Ben Stiller joint.
Yes. Good job, Ben Stiller, by the way.
Yeah. He directed this episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Good stuff. How many goats out of 10 are you giving this episode?
The creep factor alone, I'm going 9.
Yeah. I'm gonna cite a different version. I think this episode had really subtle ways of saying something very deep. I don't think we'll fully get it until we understand what's happening. But I think what I want to say is I think there was great work done by the actors in this episode, and we're not going to fully appreciate till we know what's going on.
Into season 2.
But I think this was a very, very good episode on an emotional level, and I enjoyed it very much. All right.
What number are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 9.
Okay.
9. It was a 9 for me. I think it was the best episode yet of the season. And it was very trippy and it's very Severance-y, but it just had this deep emotional thing kind of running through it, a through line, and I enjoyed it. Tell us what you thought of this episode. Make sure and subscribe and all that stuff. We appreciate it, and share this with your other Severance friends who are fans, and we'll see you next time.